Students of class 12th with another part of this unit, biology in human welfare. In that part, so far we have discussed the various topics of immunology, right? Last topic was autoimmune disorders, autoimmunity. Now there is another aspect of the same unit, that is human health and diseases, and in human health and diseases we are supposed to explain the pathology of some important diseases, some communicable diseases, right? And the first topic that I would like to start in this part, human health and diseases, is AIDS. This is one of the deadly disease, right, that we have to understand. It is a viral disease and we will explain its epidemiology, will explain its pathogenicity, right, its pathology, pathophysiology, we should say, right, and we will also discuss the possible treatment, is if there any possible treatment for this AIDS, right. So let's start this topic, that's AIDS. What is AIDS? AIDS, actually it's an acronym and it stands for, AIDS stands for acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. This is the full form of AIDS. It's acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. Immunodeficiency, you know, there is deficiency of immune system, there is immunosuppression in this disorder because of it's not from the beginning, it is acquired, right? It's acquired due to a viral infection. It is a viral disease caused by a virus, right? So the most important characteristic feature of this disease is the immunosuppression, deficiency of immune system, and as a result this individual which is having suppressed immune system comes in contact with the different types of opportunistic infections that may sometimes become the cause of the death of the individual. Many different infections contract the body of the individual who is having deficiency in his or her immune system due to this viral disease, what is called AIDS, AIDS, right, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. So let's try to define this disease, AIDS. It is actually AIDS, it's actually a disease, caused by a virus. It is caused by a virus. The virus is called HIV. So it is a disease caused by a virus, viral infection. That virus is called HIV. HIV also stands for human immunodeficiency virus. So this is the causative agent of this disease called AIDS. So this is the disease caused by this viral infection HIV, and it is characterized by immunosuppression. There is loss of immunity in the body due to this virus called HIV, which is causative agent of the disease called AIDS, right? Now besides the immunosuppression, the individual having this AIDS, right, in the body of the individual there are different types of opportunistic infections. So when there is suppression of the immune system of the body becomes prone to the different types of infections, fungal, bacterial and other viral infections, right? So the body of the individual with this disease called AIDS, right, is infected by different types of infections those infections are called opportunistic infections. And there is one more character besides the immunosuppression and opportunistic infections, that is there is wasting of the body. The individual with this disease, that's called AIDS, there is wasting of the body, the individual loses the mass of the body, there is slim disease in the body, right? Besides this, there is one more characteristic feature of this disease disorder, that is central nervous system degeneration. There is also central nervous system degeneration, right? So these are some important characteristic features of this disease, what we called as AIDS, which is caused by a virus. The virus is called HIV. So we can say simply, this is the disease caused by a virus, that is HIV, characterized by the immunosuppression, opportunistic infections, wasting of the body, and there are also central nervous system degeneration. There is one more character that we can add here, that is some tumors, some rare type of tumors are there, neoplasias. There are some rare skin tumors called neoplasias, or that particular tumor is known as Kaposi's sarcoma. Kaposi's sarcoma, right? This is the tumor, this is a cancer in the dermis of the skin in the patients of AIDS, right? So these are the characteristic features of this disease, what we call as AIDS, which is caused by HIV. Anyways, we can also say that this AIDS is simply, there is actually this disease, it is related with the immune system, but what part of immune system? There are many lines of immune system, as we have discussed in the immunology, right? There is first line, that is innate immunity, non-specific, there is adaptive, acquired, and in acquired adaptive we have humoral, and we have cell mediated immunity. This AIDS, it is related to the cell mediated immunity. So it is actually the disease of, we can say also it is disease of cell mediated immunity. So sometimes this is asked to you in some exams, for example NEET. AIDS is related to which one of the following? Is it related to the innate immunity? Is it related to the humoral immunity, or it is mainly related with the cell mediated immunity? Yes, it is disease of cell mediated immunity. So this disease is related with the disease problem with the T lymphocytes, right? And what is the characteristic feature of this disease? When it is related to the cell mediated immunity, there is drastic change. It is characterized by, again we can say, it is characterized by the drastic reduction in the number of T helper cells. These are the very important cells of the immune system, T helper cells. And if you remember, these are the most important and most abundant cells, T lymphocytes in the body. And they are called T helper cells because they are required by the innate immunity for the activation of the various cells, and they are also required by the B cells for their activation and T cytotoxic cells for their activation and proliferation. So they are very important. So this is very essential component of the immune system, which actually the control and regulate the various components of the immune system. That is why helping and assisting the various components of the immune system, that is why these cells are called T helper cells. And in this problem, in this deadly disease, dangerous disease, which is caused by the HIV, human immunodeficiency virus called AIDS, there is drastic reduction in the number of T helper cells. So T helper cells are lost. So obviously this is very obvious. When the T helper cells are lost, many components of the immune system, they become weak, right? And as a result, the body becomes prone to the various types of infections, various types of tumors, right? Various types of, the neoplasias. And that finally can result to the death of the individual, right? Anyways, So this is another way. This is another way to define this disease, what we call as AIDS. It is a disease of cell-mediated immunity characterized by the drastic reduction in the number of T helper cells, and finally there is loss of immunity. So the name. So there is loss of immunity of the body, defense of the body. So that is why it is known as immunodeficiency syndrome, because when there is deficiency of the immune system, right, there are many other infections which contract the body, and that's why syndrome, right. Now, so far as this disease AIDS is concerned and its causative agent, that is HIV, is concerned, right, they have been discovered very earlier. First, some patients came with some infections, with some problems, right, and then those patients, most of them were the homosexuals and prostitutes, right, drug abuse, and all these individuals had some problems in their body, had some infections in their body, had some tumors in their body. When these patients come into the notice of doctors, when the doctors observe these symptoms of these patients, finally they discovered that these symptoms that I have discussed in the definition, for example, opportunistic infections are there, central nervous system degeneration is there, right. So all these symptoms, when observed by the doctors in some individuals, finally they discovered these symptoms are because of a disease, that's an acquired disease caused by this virus, that is HIV, and they finally recognized that this disease is acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. In all these patients there is a characteristic feature that there is loss of immune system in the body, right. So if we talk about the discovery of this disease, how this disease and its causative agent was discovered, let's try to explain the history, how the disease and virus was discovered. It was actually this disease, that is AIDS. I am talking about the AIDS. This disease that is known as AIDS was first time discovered in 1981. The disease was first time discovered in 1981 in San Francisco. This is the name of the place in US. So it was first discovered in San Francisco, US, right, in 1981 in some individuals who were male homosexuals. The individuals were male homosexuals. While a male is performing sexual activity with another male, that is prohibited in most of the religions, right. So whatever, so this was actually the problem, this was actually the case. It was first discovered, this AIDS was first discovered in the US in 1981 in individuals who had some symptoms in their body, who had some problems in their body, who displayed some symptoms in their body, and finally it was discovered that these male homosexuals have AIDS, right. For example, these individuals, male homosexuals, who were observed by the doctors first time when the disease was not discovered, they displayed some symptoms. For example, opportunistic infections. In all these individuals there were some opportunistic infections. For example, these individuals had a fungal infection, fungal pathogen. The fungal pathogen is known as Pneumocystis carni. Pneumocystis carni. This is the characteristic feature of the AIDS. When there is AIDS in any individual, his body or her body become prone to this fungal infection, that is Pneumocystis carni, right. So all these individuals which came into the notice of doctors, right, observed by the doctors, diagnosed by the doctors, they were male homosexuals, and all those individuals had this problem, had these opportunistic infections, fungal infections, pneumocystis carinii. Even these, many of these individuals had a common character, that was this, Kaposi's sarcoma. This is a rare skin cancer in the individuals of AIDS, right? So they had these common characters, and on the basis of these characters, finally the doctors diagnosed that these individuals have a common type of disease. That disease was recognized as AIDS. So it was first time in US San Francisco when the disease AIDS was discovered, right? Then after few years when the disease was recognized, its causative agent was also discovered and characterized by some laboratories, right? There were some biologists, right, who after recognizing the disease that's known as AIDS, which is characterized by the immunosuppression, loss of immunity, they tried to find out the causative agent, the culprit of this disease, and finally in their laboratories they found the causative agent is HIV. This HIV was characterized and isolated by some biologists in their lab. The biologists were, for example, Luc Montagnier, and another biologist who studied the structure of the virus was Robert Luc Montagnier, right? In his lab, Luc Montagnier, isolated and characterized the HIV. There were some other biologists, in his lab, Luc Montagnier's lab, who tried to explain the structure and viral structure of this HIV, right? So after the discovery of the disease, after few years, it was approximately 1984, yes, in the Luc Montagnier's lab, the virus was discovered and virus was characterized, right? And first, this virus was found to be very close. This virus was found close to some other animal viruses. When the HIV was discovered, this virus was found, it is very close, its structure is very close to other animal viruses. For example, human T lymphocyte virus. Human T lymphocyte virus. Human T lymphocyte or T cell or T lymphocyte virus. This virus was found very close to the, so far as its structure is concerned, another animal virus, that is human T lymphocyte virus, and it was also found very close to the simian virus of monkeys. Simian for monkeys, right? So its structure was found very close to these two animal viruses as well, and it was believed that this virus has actually developed, it has come from the monkeys. Some green monkeys are actually the origin of this virus, where from it has evolved, where from it has originated, that is HIV. So when it was first found close to these two viruses, then by a committee that's known as International Committee on Viral Nomenclature, right? Viral nomenclature. This committee finally decided that this virus should be officially named, it should be officially announced with what type or which type of virus it is. And finally this committee, that is International Committee on Viral Nomenclature, they called it, they officially announced it HIV, Human Immunodeficiency Virus. This was called Human Immunodeficiency Virus. Clear? So finally, this committee, International Committee on Viral Nomenclature, officially named this virus as HIV, which is the same acronym or term in our literature, right? HIV stands for Human Immunodeficiency Virus. Now, after recognizing the disease, after recognizing this HIV, now if we talk about the occurrence, how many individuals are there in the world who were infected by this disease, that is AIDS? So far, many individuals have contracted this disease, and it is believed that almost 50 to 60 million individuals, humans, have been infected. 50 to 60 million individuals, human individuals in different populations have been infected by this AIDS so far, since its origin till date, right? We can say 50 to 60 million people have contracted this, are infected by HIV and AIDS, right? Now, almost 34, so far we can say 34 million deaths. 34 million deaths have occurred due to AIDS. This disease has caused the death of many adult individuals, old individuals, right, and many young individuals, children as well, right? So it is estimated that, this is all estimation, right, approximation. So 34 million deaths have occurred due to this disease so far, right? It has orphaned many children whose father and mother were HIV positive. They had the full blown AIDS, and finally both of them died, right? So this is very dangerous disease, and it is found that presently almost 37 million people in the world, 37 million people in world live with HIV. They have HIV in their body. That is a secondary question, whether they have the AIDS, whether they have the symptoms, right, devastating symptoms in their body or not. That is a second aspect of this disease. We will discuss that point later. So it's not necessary, by the way, an individual who is carrying the virus in the body is having AIDS as well, right? So that's a different aspect we will discuss ahead. Anyways, 37 million people in the world live with HIV. They have HIV in their body. They are HIV positive, we can say. That is secondary question, whether they have the full blown AIDS, whether they have the symptoms of AIDS or not. That is secondary thing, right? So among these 37 million people who live with this HIV, 70% are found in Africa. 70% are found in the Africa, right? 70% are found in the Africa who live with the AIDS. That is why you might have come across this line in some books. This Africa is known as AIDS capital of the world. AIDS capital of world, because 70% people who live with the AIDS, who live with the HIV, are present in Africa. They live in Africa, right? 20% are living in Asia. 20% are living in Asia, and the rest, that is 10%, rest of the 10%, they live in the different countries of the world, right? they live in the different continents, right? So 70% in Africa, 20% in Asia, and 10% in the rest of the world. Anyways, so this is occurrence and all that so far as. Now so far as India is concerned, that we live in, right? So far as our country is concerned, that's India. In India, this disease, that is AIDS, this disease AIDS was discovered, was found in 1986. It was discovered in India. I am talking about India particular. So in 1986 it was found in India, and where it was found in a state that's known as Chennai, right? In Chennai there was a group of prostitutes, sex workers, right? And they had some symptoms, their symptoms were observed, and after observing their symptoms, finally they were diagnosed having the AIDS, right? So this disease AIDS, right, was discovered in India, was found in India in 1986 in Chennai in a group of prostitutes. Anyways, so this is all about the discovery and the occurrence of the disease. Now the most important point in this topic is causative agent. So what about the causative agent of this disease, which is called HIV? We have to understand the structure of the HIV, then and only we can understand the pathophysiology and other mode of transmission of the disease. These are the two important aspects of this disease, AIDS. First is the mode of transmission, how it is transmitted from person to person, right? How it comes in contact with the body, how it enters the different cells of the body. And second is its pathophysiology, how it is able to destroy the immune system of the body. And for understanding of these two important aspects of this disease, we have to first understand the structure of the virus, right? So let's try to understand the structure of virus. Structure of virus. You know that the causative agent, it's already done in the definition portion. So the causative agent of this disease is known as HIV, right? Now we have officially announced it. This is HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, and this HIV is actually a virus belonging to lentivirus. A family of viruses known as, this is a family of animal viruses, not plant viruses. So a family of viruses known as lentiviruses, and this virus HIV, it also belongs to the Lentiviridae family of viruses, animal viruses, right? And so far two types have been discovered. There are two types of HIV, type first and type second. So far two types of HIV have been discovered. There are two types of HIV, and these two types of HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, they differ in their genomic structure. And in their pathogenicity, in their antigenicity, I can say. Antigenicity, that is the mode of their contact with the body, cells of the body, right? So these two differ. They have some homology, they have some similarity, but they differ from each other so far as their genomic structure is concerned and their antigenicity is concerned, right? They have almost some authors say they have almost 40% homology, they have 40% similarity, right? But the important thing that we need to understand is, among these two, type first and type 2, this one is the most common. This is the most common type of HIV, type first. Type first is the most common type of virus that is found in the different populations of world who have the AIDS or who are HIV positive, right? So they have this virus. There are some groups in the world which also have this type 2 virus, but so far as the severity of the disease is concerned, this one is the most common and most characterized. This one is the most common and most characterized. Its characters have been, studied, observed, right, discovered. So this is the most important. And so far as my topic is concerned, that's AIDS, and in this topic now I am trying to explain the structure of this virus, deadly virus HIV, right? And my point of discussion will be type first. I will discuss the characteristics of type first rather than the type 2, which is the most common and most severe cause of AIDS, right? So let's go through the structure. Now, so far as this HIV type 1 virus is concerned, regarding the structure, this is actually, first of all, you must understand this HIV, it is actually a retrovirus. It is a retrovirus. There are different types of viruses that you might have heard about, DNA, RNA containing virus, and this particular virus, HIV type first, right, is a retrovirus. And you know what is retrovirus? I hope you know the retrovirus. Do you know the retrovirus? Anyways, I will tell you. Retrovirus means a virus. Generally, what is the flow of the genetic information? The normal flow of the genetic information is DNA, genetic information, the recipe for all the characters, right, lies on the DNA, and this DNA, it is transcribed into RNA, and then finally RNA, that's mRNA, messenger RNA, code for the different types of proteins. That is translated, the message of the mRNA is translated into the sequence of amino acids in a polypeptide chain, right? So finally a protein is formed. So this is the way the genetic information flow, that is DNA from RNA, RNA to proteins. And you know that this phenomenon is known in the biology, it is known as central dogma. It is known as central dogma. But so far as retroviruses are concerned, when retroviruses were not discovered, in the overall biology, the concept for the flow of genetic information was the same, that is from DNA to RNA, RNA to proteins, right? But when these retroviruses were discovered, HIV is one of the typical retroviruses. So when retroviruses were discovered by Tamin and Baltimore, right, and it was found that these retroviruses have an ability. What ability? They can convert the RNA back to the DNA. They can convert their RNA into DNA. They can transcribe their RNA back to the DNA, right? And for this particular phenomenon where the RNA is converted into DNA, this is reverse, this is backward, right? So that is why the word is retro. Retro means backward. Backward process. Retro means backward, right? So when this particular phenomena was observed in the retroviruses, where these retroviruses have the ability to convert the RNA into DNA, this process was called as reverse. This was called as reverse transcription. The process was called reverse transcription, right? And for this reverse transcription, these all retroviruses, including HIV, have a very important enzyme with them. That enzyme is known as reverse transcriptase. This is a very important enzyme of the retroviruses, with the help of which they can convert the RNA into DNA. We will further discuss this point in the life cycle of the HIV, right? Not right now. I am trying to focus on the structure of the HIV, so I will not distract from my point, from my discussion. So these but I am trying to make you understand what do you mean by retrovirus. Retroviruses, retro means backward. They generally the flow of information is this: DNA to RNA, RNA to proteins. But these retroviruses, including HIV, can convert the RNA into DNA back to the DNA. So this process is known as a reverse transcription, and the enzyme which is responsible for this is the component of the virus that is very much present in the viral coat, right, inside the viral coat, right, outside the genome, right. So that enzyme is known as reverse transcriptase, and it's a very interesting enzyme and has got a lot of attention in the molecular biology and biochemistry because it's having so many functions. Right now we are not in a position to discuss all its functions, but here we have to understand this important function of this reverse transcriptase, which is capable of converting RNA back into DNA. And this is an interesting type of enzyme which is dependent on RNA but is converting RNA into DNA but is synthesizing the DNA. So it is an RNA dependent DNA polymerase, because it is synthesizing the DNA, but for the synthesis of the DNA it is using RNA as a template. It is using RNA as a template for the synthesis of the DNA. So it is an RNA dependent DNA polymerase. RNA dependent DNA polymerase. Sometimes asked to you, there are different types of polymerases. DNA polymerases, first, second, third. There are RNA polymerases, right? So we have now one more polymerase. This is reverse transcriptase. It is depending on the RNA but converting the RNA to DNA, synthesizing the DNA. So it is RNA dependent DNA polymerase. Come on guys, come to the point. That is, this HIV, which is belonging to a family of lentiviruses, animal viruses, is actually a retrovirus. It is also a retrovirus and is able to convert the RNA into DNA. And this is very, very important for this virus if it want to integrate its genome into the genome of the host cell, into the genome of the human cell, right? So if it want to live there for a long period of time, that is the characteristic feature of HIV. When the body of an individual contracts this virus, right, when this virus enters the body of the individual, it can remain latent for a long period of time, 8 to 10 years, and after 10 years there may be the symptoms that will appear. Full blown AIDS will appear, right, and for that period of time it will remain as a provirus, as a latent virus, as a concealed virus, right. So this is because of this property where it can convert the RNA into DNA and then putting this DNA into the DNA of the host cell. That's very interesting regarding these retroviruses. Anyways, so far as the structure is concerned, we will come back to the structure. Further life cycle will be explained in the another part of this topic. That's a separate aspect, life cycle of the virus, how it enters the different cells, what is the mode of transmission. So far as structure is concerned, structure that's already mentioned here anyways. So let me draw a diagram here. This is actually the outermost envelope of the virus. If we see this virus, there is outermost envelope, and this envelope is made up of lipid. So this is a lipid envelope. So in the structure we can see a lipid envelope, a lipid bubble, right, in this virus. And inside this lipid envelope there are some protein coats, right. Protein coat is there. Capsid is there. So the first one, that is in the center of this envelope, for example, there is the protein coat. This coat is made up of proteins, right. What proteins I will discuss, I will mention, and whatever genetic material of this virus is present, that is present inside this protein coat. So this, let's say this is the inner protein coat, or you can say simply the capsid. That's the characteristic feature of viruses, capsid core, right. And genetic material, so far as the genetic material is concerned, you know that the genetic material of this virus HIV is actually the two identical strands of RNA. It's a retrovirus. The genetic material is RNA, which is converted back into DNA by the process of reverse transcription. Right. So where is this RNA? There is not a single RNA. There are two identical, that is not complementary. These are identical, similar, right? Two RNA molecules are present inside this protein coat, protein capsid, right? So let's say these are the two RNA molecules, these two. And outside these two identical RNA molecules, there is this protein coat. Now, there are some other proteins here outside this inner coat. We can say this is the outer coat as well. This, for example, right? There are many proteins. There are proteins in this coat as well, right? Together we call the proteins of this coat and proteins of this coat, right? These are called matrix proteins. These are called matrix core proteins. Yes, the proteins of this layer and proteins of this layer, which are enclosing the genetic material, that is two identical RNA molecules of the virus, right? These both protein cores, one is the innermost and another is outer, and then finally outside, right, from the periphery there is the lipid envelope. Now these protein coats, these are actually made up of proteins. The proteins are called core matrix proteins, core matrix proteins, right? Now we have to understand some important things, that is the different types of proteins which are present in this matrix, present in the core matrix, right, present in the capsid, and the proteins which are outside the capsid core, for example this, right, and the glycoproteins which are present in the lipid envelope. Now, as I told you, the genetic material of this virus are two identical strands of RNA, and outside the genetic material, outside the two RNA molecules, there is the first protein coat, capsid core, right? And this capsid core, in this capsid core, the proteins are called P24. The most important protein is there, that is forming the core protein, is P24. P for protein, P for polypeptide, so P24. It's a very important protein which is lying outside the RNA, which is forming the core outside the genetic material, covering, enveloping the genetic material, that is two identical molecules of RNA. Now, this P24, it's very important when we will go through the diagnosis. I will use its clinical significance. P24, it is very important for the diagnosis of this virus, whether it is present in the blood, whether it is present in the body. So we have to diagnose, then and only we can go for the treatments and all that. First we must come to know whether the individual is suffering from this disease or not. So for the diagnosis, right, we can use this protein P24. It's not having other significance, but it is having this serological significance. It can be used when the virus comes out of the cell. For example, it is bursting the T helper cell, or for example any macrophage. When it comes out of the cell, these proteins are sometimes released in the blood. P24, that's a core protein, that's the protein of the cover which is outside the genetic material, two RNA molecules. Sometimes this protein can be identified in the blood, right? And we have the techniques to diagnose this protein, and if this protein is diagnosed, are the antibodies against, obviously when it is released the blood, there will be some antibodies which can bind to this protein because it's a foreign protein, it's an antigen, right? So we can use both this protein P24 and we can use the antibodies, that is anti-P24 we can say, for diagnosis of AIDS. Obviously the individual who is carrying this virus in the body is having the antibodies against it or having the P24 in his or her blood, right? So this is the clinical significance of this P24. So far what we have discussed, so far as the structure of the virus is concerned, right? there is outermost lipid envelope in the structure. If we move inside, there are some proteins which have formed one more cover there, right? And the innermost coat, right now I am talking about the same. So the innermost coat, that is capsid coat or capsid core, is made up of proteins, that is P24. Now outside this P24, outside this capsid core, inner core, there are some other proteins which have formed this layer as well, and these proteins are called P17. P for protein and 17 molecular weight in Daltons. So this is one more protein in the structure of the virus. First is this, please try to understand, look at the diagram. So this is having this protein, that's P24, and outside this there is one more protein cover, that is P17, right? Now if we see inside the capsid core here, just close to the RNA molecules, that is here, right, in the center, there are some other proteins as well which are synthesized during the life cycle of the virus, and finally these are assembled and these are packed inside this protein core. These are some enzymes actually just outside the RNA molecules. There are two identical strands of RNA. These are the two identical strands of RNA outside the RNA, right? Just outside the genetic material, outside the genome. There are some enzymes which are required for the viral replication. What are these enzymes? These are also present in the structure. These enzymes are reverse transcriptase. Reverse transcriptase, that's very important enzyme. Reverse transcriptase. Another one is known as this one, second one. This is known as integrase. And this one, another one, this is known as protease. So three enzymes are present inside. Besides, there are two identical strands of RNA molecules which constitute the genome of the virus. There are three important enzymes inside the inner capsid core. That enzymes are reverse transcriptase, integrase and protease. We have discussed the function of the reverse transcriptase, which is important for the reverse transcription. Integrase is, as the name indicates, it is responsible for integrating the viral genome after the reverse transcription into the genome, into the DNA of the host cell. So it helps to integrate the viral genome, viral DNA after the reverse transcription into the genome, into the DNA of the host cell. Integrase, right? Because there is reverse transcription, DNA is synthesized, and when the DNA is synthesized, finally this DNA is integrated into the host cell. For that we also need an enzyme, and that is very much present in the structure of the virus. That is known as integrase. And protease, this is very interesting enzyme against which we have so many drugs to stop this disease, to stop the replication of the virus. That we will discuss ahead. So protease, as a name, protease, it is responsible for the breaking the proteins. Actually, in this virus, that is HIV, there is synthesis of many proteins, but those proteins are synthesized as precursors. They are synthesized as large proteins, polyproteins, right? And polyproteins and large proteins which are synthesized in this virus first are not biologically active. They don't have any function in the virus, for the virus, right? Then these proteases come into action, and when these proteases, they are, triggered into action, they break those bigger proteins, polyproteins, into smaller proteins, and smaller proteins are having very important functions for this virus, for the replication of the virus, for maintaining the structure, for assembling the viral particles in the body of the host, right? So that's why these proteases are required. I will explain the role of these proteases ahead in the life cycle, most probably, right? So here please try to understand. So far as structure of this virus is concerned, that is HIV, right? There is genetic material, there is genome inside which consists of two identical strands of RNA, right? And now I am saying outside the RNA there are some enzymes for the replication as well. Reverse transcriptase is there, integrase is there, and protease is there. You can simply remember RIP, rest in peace, which is nowadays a most common caption on Facebook and Twitter and whatever, when a person dies and we write rest in peace. So it is reverse transcriptase, integrase and protease. Okay guys, go ahead. So far we have discussed all these components of the virus which are lying inside the lipid envelope. So this is here the capsid core, which is made up of P24. Outside the capsid core there are some other proteins, P17, right? These are called matrix proteins all. And now so far as genetic material is concerned, that is 2 identical strands of RNA, they are present in the capsid core, inside the capsid core, and there are 3 important enzymes as well: reverse transcriptase, integrase and protease. Now so far as this lipid envelope is concerned, this lipid envelope is not actually the component of the virus itself. It's not component of the virus itself. Actually this lipid envelope is a stolen thing. It is a stolen thing. When a virus enter the body of the individual, in the body of the individual it enters some particular cells. Now when it comes out of those cells, right, at the same time when it comes out of those cells, right, that is infectivity, when it is spreading to other cells of the body as well, at that time it steals this lipid envelope from the membrane of the human cell. So it is not the component of the virus itself, it is actually the stolen thing. It's a thief, right? And when it enters the human cell, for example, and then at the time of bursting of that cell, when the virus comes out of that cell and trying to go into another cell, it come along with this lipid envelope. So this is not its own thing, it is actually derived from the host. So this lipid envelope which is present outside the virus, outermost layer of the virus, is actually derived from the host. It is derived from host. It is stolen from host, better to say. It's a very intelligent virus. So it is capable of it is capable of stealing the things from the host, that is this lipid envelope. But although this lipid envelope is the host's component, it is the component of the host cell, it is derived from the host cell, but there are some glycoproteins in this. There are some glycoproteins in this lipid envelope, and those glycoproteins are not components of the host. They are not the things of the host. Those glycoproteins are encoded by the genome of the virus itself. They are there are genes for those glycoproteins in the RNA. So they are actually the proteins of the RNA. They are actually the proteins of the virus, but they are put in the lipid envelope for the attachment purpose, for the contact purpose, because the virus have to contact, the virus need to come in contact with the host cell before entering to the cell, and for that it uses some glues, it uses some sticky structures, and the sticky structures are put inside this lipid envelope which is actually derived from the host. And now these are the, let's say these are the glycoproteins in the lipid envelope. They are embedded in the lipid envelope. They cross the lipid envelope, that's transmembrane we can say, right? So what are these glycoproteins? GP for glycoproteins. Actually these are 2 in number. There are 2 glycoproteins present in the lipid envelope. This lipid envelope contains the glycoproteins which are encoded by the genome of the virus itself, not derived from the host. It's only lipid envelope which is derived from the host. So please try to understand. Here we have the first one, that is transmembrane, which is across the lipid envelope, that's known as GP41. GP41. And this GP41 is non-covalently linked with another important protein, glycoprotein, right? And that another protein that is in contact with outside, this another glycoprotein which is non-covalently associated with transmembrane GP41 is known as GP120. It is GP120. glycoprotein 120, molecular weight in Daltons. These two proteins are very, very important for the viral, transmission, for the infectivity of this virus. Infectivity, when virus can enter in the different cells of the body, right? So for that purpose, for entry into the different cells of the body, in the different cells of the host, these two proteins must be there. These are required. These are the keys which help to enter into the host cell. Are you getting? So these are two in number, GP41 and GP120, but actually these two, right, these two are actually synthesized. They are synthesized, or I can say they are fragments of actually the one bigger protein, that is polyprotein. If we put them together, this is actually one protein, one bigger protein, that's known as GP, or we can say simply P160. So it is actually first the 160 protein which undergo the breaking because of this protease. This is the enzyme which is required now, because this 160 is non-functional, right? But this 120 or 41, these are very functional proteins, very functional glycoproteins. So this 160 needs breaking. For the breaking, here is an enzyme, that is protease. It can break this into two components. One is GP41 and GP120, right? Now, this GP41, it is actually acting as a fusion protein. It's actually acting as a fusion protein. It is actually acting as a fusion protein, right? And at the time of fusion means when this virus comes in contact with the host cell. For the entry into the host cell, it uses this fusion protein GP41. But the actual key which is first come into place, that is this GP120. So these are always together. That's why they are non-covalently attached to each other, and both are required for the fusion. Both are required at the time of fusion when this virus will enter into the host cell. So let's say this is the host cell, and when this virus enter into this host cell, right, it uses this GP120 and 41 so that the virus can enter into the host cell, right? And this is very, very interesting. So far as GP120 is concerned, I will discuss ahead. This GP120 is very, very important protein in the structure of the virus, which undergoes lot of changes at every replication of the virus. When this GP120 is synthesized, there is gene for this GP120, right? And the genes of this GP120 will undergo different types of modifications at every replication, and that is why it's very difficult. It has been found very difficult so far to produce any vaccine against this virus. Why there is not any effective vaccine against virus, we will discuss ahead again. But the most important thing, that is the thing of concern, that is GP120. It undergoes lot of changes during the replication of the virus, and during those changes, modifications, mutations in the different variants of the GP120, right? So we are helpless to produce any kind of antibody or any kind of vaccine which is capable of stopping this contact of the virus with the host cell. Even the immune system of the body is helpless, because whenever any immune component like an antibody which is capable of neutralizing it, which can block this GP120, that can block it and the contact of this virus can be stopped, right? But it is capable of changing itself continuously. It is changing its phase continuously. So the immune system becomes helpless to stop its entry into the host cell. That is why it is very deadly disease. This is deadly virus, right? So, and has resulted the worldwide pandemic of this HIV or AIDS, right? So this is I am just trying to focus the importance of this GP120 and GP41. I will further explain their role so far as the viral entry into the host cell is concerned, but here you have to understand these are two important glycoproteins in the lipid envelope which are important for the fusion of the virus with the host cell, right? And it is because of, this is one more point that you need to understand at this present point, present juncture, that GP120, this is this protein actually which is recognizing a particular type of receptor on the host cell, with the help of which it can come in contact with this, it can fuse with the host cell, and then there will be entry of the virus into the host cell. Now this GP120, it is having the recognition sites, for some cells, the cells which express a receptor, and that receptor is known as CD4 positive cells. That means the GP120 of the virus, which is used at the time of fusion, which is used at the time of entry, as I told you, please try to understand. But it recognizes a particular receptor on the cells. There are cells in which it can enter, and on those cells there is a particular receptor with which it can come in contact, to which it can recognize, and that receptor is known as CD4, cluster differentiation or cluster determinant CD4, right? There are many CD molecules, but this CD4, this CD4 is present on different cells of the body. The CD4 is present on the different cells of the body. When it is present on the different cells of the body, wherever it is present, this virus is having ability to enter into those cells, because this GP120 is specific to the CD4, right? So at the time of entry, at the time of contact, GP120 present in the lipid envelope and the CD4 come in contact with it. Now we have to understand a point. Which are the cells? Which are the cells where the CD4 is present? If you remember, we discussed the cell mediated immunity in the last lecture, in the previous video, right? And in that we have understood that the CD4 receptor is present in the T helper cells. That is why I told you that this is the cell mediated immunity disease, and there is drastic reduction of the T helper cells, because the GP120 of the virus can bind with the CD4 of the T helper cells. So that means its first target is T helper cell. Its first target is T helper cells. That is secondary question. It initially enter into the macrophages and then into T helper cells. That we will discuss in the life cycle. But here I am trying to mention what are the cells, which are the cells to which the GP120 of the virus can bind with the help of CD4. So this is a CD4 containing cell. There are cells, for example, called antigen presenting cells. Antigen presenting cells are, for example, macrophages. Macrophages, they have the CD4. So virus can enter into these cells. Now there are some cells in the skin which are very important antigen presenting cells, famous, right, called as Langerhans cells. Langerhans cells, right? There are cells in the brain which can have which have the CD4 and can become the target of this virus, called microglia cells. Microglia cells. There are some antigen presenting cells in the lymphoid tissues called as follicular dendritic cells. Dendritic cells, right? So many other cells which are having the CD4, they are simply called as antigen presenting cells, because they are able to present the antigen to the T cytotoxic cells for the killing purpose, that we have already explained in the cell mediated immunity. Please watch that video for understanding, right? Here I am trying to focus on this GP120, which is very, very important key for the entry of the virus into the host cell. But how it recognizes the host cell? The GP120 recognizes the host cell with the help of this another protein another glycoprotein, that's CD4, and this CD4 is present on different cells of the humans. For example, T helper cells, which are finally drastically reduced in the body of the AIDS patient. There are some cells called antigen presenting cells, macrophages, Langerhans cells, microglial cells of the brain, follicular dendritic cells of the lymphoid tissues. So all these cells carry this molecule on their surfaces called CD4, which can come in contact with GP120 of the virus. So guys, this is all about the structure of the virus, how the virus look like, right? So this is the structure. I hope you have understood. Now, so far as the genetic composition of this virus is concerned, I mean the genes which are present in its genome. What is its genome? What is its genome, guys? I need a soft chalk because they are very hard and it's very difficult to write with the help of these hard chalks. You can see my hands dirty. Anyways, go ahead. What I was saying. Yes, genome. So far as genome of the virus is concerned, let's say genetic composition of virus. Okay. So far as the genetic composition of the virus is concerned, I mean the gene is in the two identical RNA molecules. We need not discuss both because they are identical. So these two RNA molecules, identical RNA molecules of the virus, they have the basic, they contain a basic arrangement of nucleotides, you know, DNA and RNA made up of nucleotides, adenine, guanine, thymine, cytosine in DNA, adenine, guanine, uracil and cytosine in RNA, right? So they have the basic arrangement of these nucleotides in the two RNA molecules, identical RNA molecules, right? Now, so far as retroviruses are concerned, like a typical retrovirus, this HIV, its genome is having two flanking ends. It's having two flanking ends with the help of which it can integrate into the host cell. Integrase will help, that's okay, but it's having some sequences at the two ends of its genome, right? First it is RNA is converted into DNA, finally this is inserted into the genome of the host. Now let's talk about its genome. Its genome, its genetic material, right, is having two ends, two flanking ends, as my hands, these are two flanking ends, right? So here we have an end, this is 5' end, and here we have an end, that is 3' end. At these two ends, there are some repeated sequences. The sequences are called long terminal repeats. Long terminal repeats. So there are two long terminal repeats, LTR, 5' and 3'. There are two flanking ends of this genome. Long terminal repeats, long terminal repeats. These have many hundreds of nucleotides in this at this end and at this end. These two ends are very, very important for the virus, for the viral replication, right, for the life cycle of the virus. Why? Because these long terminal repeats from this end and from this end, they help the virus to integrate into host DNA, This will help and this end will help for the integration of this genome into the host cell after the reverse transcription, right? Anyways, in between these two long terminal repeats, by the way, these are the typical characters of all retroviruses including HIV. All retroviruses are known for having these LTR, long terminal repeats. Between these two repeats, there are 9 genes. There are 9 genes in this virus. There are 9 genes. Total number of genes is 9. There are 9 genes. right? And out of these 9 genes, there are 3 basic structural genes. Out of these 9, there are 3 basic or primary structural genes. Structural genes. 3 basic structural genes. And the 6, the rest of the 6, right, they are regulatory proteins. They help the viral genome for the regulatory activities, right, for the viral replication. But 3 are very, very important. They are structural genes. Structural genes refers to the genes which code for these different proteins of the virus. So that means for the assembly of the viral particles inside the host cell, so that it can go into the other cells of the body, there must be 3 primary or basic structural genes. What are these 3 primary structural genes? These 3 primary or basic structural genes are, out of 9, these are, one is known as GAG, another is known as POL, and another is known as ENV. Right? These are the 3 structural genes in the genome of the virus, and all these 3 structural genes are required for the assembly of viral particles. Okay. So GAG, POL, NV. GAG stands for group. It is in the literature group associated antigen. Anyways, we have nothing to do with its name. GAG is the gene, structural gene. POL is the gene, POL for polymerase. ENV, envelope gene. So this GAG is, this sequences of GAG code for some proteins. POL sequences also code for some proteins, and NV genes also code for some proteins that you have already discussed, that we have already mentioned in the structure. Let's try to understand. Let me rub this for a time being. So this GAG, it produces, or it encodes the proteins. The proteins are the core. The proteins are core matrix proteins. Core matrix proteins. What are core matrix proteins? One is lying here in the capsid core, that is known as P24. So there are sequences in this which code for P24, and one more is known as P17, which is here in this portion outside the capsid core, right? So these 2 core matrix proteins are produced by this, are encoded by this, encoded by this GAG. Now come to the POL. POL gene, it also encodes for very, very important enzymes that are present inside the capsid core, which are very, very important for the replication of this virus. What are those? 3 important enzymes, that is reverse transcriptase, another was integrase, and the last one was protease. These 3 enzymes are required for the replication of the virus, right, for the reverse transcription, for integration into the host genome, for breaking the bigger proteins into functional proteins, protease. So these are encoded by the sequences of POL. Now NV for envelope, that means those glycoproteins which are present in the envelope, the glycoproteins which are embedded in the envelope, present in the envelope. So what are those? 2, that is, one is GP120, another is GP41. So these are fusion proteins, you know, and encoded by NV genes. By the way, all retroviruses which have the genetic material RNA and capable of converting the RNA into DNA by process of reverse transcription have these genes. For the viral replication, For the assembly of the viral particles, they must have these sequences: GAG, POL, NV. This is characteristic feature of all retroviruses, including this HIV, right? So for the assembly of the viral particles, GAG is important, POL is important, NV genes are important. Anyways, besides these three structural genes, these are the typical genes of retrovirus, including HIV. In HIV first, there are some other genes as well, which generally acts as regulatory genes. So besides these three, there are some other genes as well, 6, right? And what are those genes? A gene is there, for example, that is known as TAT. There is one more gene that is known as, there is another gene that is known as, NIF, right? There is one more gene that's known as WIP. There is one more gene that's known as VPR, and there is another gene that's known as VPU, and there is one more gene that's known as REV. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, correct. So these are some other genes and having a very, very important regulatory role in the viral application. TAT, NIF, WIP, VPR, VPU, REV. These are some difficult, names. Anyways, the good students can remember anything, because everything is important so far as knowledge is concerned. So a good student, every students can even skip these things, no problem, right, so far as class 12th is concerned. But good students, good doctors can memorize these things: TAT, NIF, WIP, VPR, VPU, REV. Here I am not going to explain these all genes, but one of them, this is very, very important. This is very, very important, right, to mention here. It's worth mentioning here. This TAT is very, very important for the transcription of the virus. For the transcription, activating the transcription of the messenger RNA, I mean the RNA which is produced during the transcription process, right? And then the transcription of this virus genome, that for the transcription purpose of the viral genome, there is, let me tell you again if you are confused. So this is LTR here, right? This is LTR here, right? Now here this transcription will start, and 2 RNA molecules are finally synthesized at the time of packing of viral particles. Before the packing of the viral particles, which come from the one cell and then will enter into the another cell, there is packing of all these things. So first these all structural proteins are synthesized, and also the genome is also replicated, because the virus needs also the genome that it will carry into the another cell. So by the way, 2 types of RNA molecules are synthesized here. One is the messenger RNA, mRNA, and another is the genomic RNA. Genomic RNA means these 2 RNA molecules which are always present in the viral capsid inside the viral particle, right? Messenger RNA, mRNA, it is required for the synthesis of these different proteins which are present in the structure of the virus: GP120, 41, P24, P17, so forth and so on, right? So from the genome, when it is first inserted into the DNA of the host cell, then there is transcription. And for the transcription, sometimes this genome of the virus is activated by the components of the host itself. That is one more devastating thing, one more unfortunate thing. For the transcription of this mRNA, so that it can synthesize the different proteins, GP120, part of the component of the virus, okay, GP41, P17, so forth and so on. And this includes these 2 RNA molecules which constitute the genome of the virus, right? Now, what I am saying, for these 2, when these 2 will be synthesized, transcribed, so virus is assembled, then it's packed in a cell, host cell, and it releases from the it is released from the host cell, can enter into the other cell. Try to understand what I am saying. Here in this LTR, in LTR, long terminal repeat, I told you these two LTR sequences help in the integration of the viral genome into the host genome. First there is reverse transcription DNA, that DNA is inserted into the host DNA. Now in the host DNA this sequence is present. This is the viral genome in the host genome, right? So let's say for example this is the DNA of a person, right, who is with AIDS, HIV, right? Now this is the first end of the viral DNA, this is the another end of the viral DNA. So it is now inside the viral genome. It is present within the host DNA now. Sorry, let me tell you again. This is the genome, this is the sequences of the virus starting from the LTR that is lying at the 5' end, and this is one more LTR at 3' end, and this is within the genome of the host. Now what is going to happen? This will code for mRNA, this will code for these genomic RNA, which are the genetic materials of the virus. For the activation of the transcription, we need again this LTR. So this LTR is not only required for the insertion into the human DNA, rather they are also important for this transcription process, right? And for transcription process, so that the transcription can occur continuously, enhanced transcription, this LTR is having promoter for TAT. That was the first gene I mentioned besides the 3 structural genes. So this TAT will bind here at the LTR, and there will be transcription. mRNA will be synthesized, which will code for the different proteins of the virus. Genomic RNA will be synthesized, which will be packed after the release of the virus from the host cell, right? So this LTR is again important here. I have already mentioned this one important role for the integration into the host DNA, human DNA. Second, it is very, very important site for the transcription, start site for the transcription. And this is the viral component, that is the viral component, it is encoded by the viral genome itself. But sometimes, that's very unfortunate thing, this LTR is becoming the attachment site. I mean, it is activated by some components of the host itself. For example, this viral genome is present in a macrophage, in the DNA of a macrophage, right? Now that macrophage is human cell, that is a human macrophage, and in that human macrophage there is a component, there is a protein, that protein is known as NF, nuclear factor kappa B. This is a cytokine. This is a cytokine present in all humans, and whenever there is division of the cells, for example immune cells, this is required. NF, that is nuclear factor kappa B. This is the human component, not viral component. But what I am trying to tell you, that this nuclear factor kappa B sometimes activates the transcription of the virus. It will activate the transcription of the virus. So sometimes your own body will help the replication of the virus, so that viral particles will form, viral proteins will form, viral genome will form, and there will be exit of the viral particles from the one host cell into the another host cell. That's very unfortunate thing here, right? Besides this, there are some other components of the immune system itself which help the virus for its transcription, right? So this is very, very unfortunate thing when the body's own proteins will help the virus to transcribe. It is mRNA, messenger RNA, and it is genomic RNA, and then finally there will be the assembly of the viral particle. So this is all about the structure of this virus HIV. These are some important things regarding the structure of the virus, right? Now in the upcoming lecture, besides structure, we have to discuss the life cycle of this virus, how this virus enter into the host cell. That is the first thing, that is the contact, primary contact, secondary contact, right? And then finally the entry into the host cell, that may be the T helper cell, that may be a macrophage, that may be any other antigen presenting cell, and how it replicates there, and how the viral particles are finally assembled. We have almost understood a lot of things here in the first very lecture, but the rest of the things will be discussed in the upcoming lecture, in the mode of transmission, in the life cycle, and also many things in the pathophysiology, right? And finally there will be some possible treatments that we are going to in the next part of this topic, AIDS. Hope you have understood all these things, right? Watch this video for any clarification, query if you have. Stay safe and stay blessed. Be happy.